Hello, everyone. This is Patricia, Dancing Elk Walls, and Andena Melchizedek. And we are here for the Ascension Portal Community Gathering podcast. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring Andena on. She was one of our esteemed presenters at the previous Light Language Conference. And I've had other dealings with her. I've been a guest on one of her conferences, and she's going to talk about her upcoming one. She's got lots to offer, but let me introduce her first. So, Andena lives her truth, soul integrated as an embodied and heart centered conduit of divine frequency, activating within those in resonance and a many-fold experience, sparkling awareness of the innate truth of the human collective beingness as extension or fractal of the divine source of all creation in manifest physical form. And I always enjoy talking with you. I always am appreciative of your counsel, your guidance, and so I just wanted to invite you on here just to share what you have to share with us. So,
Thank
what are
you.
they talking to you about today?
I appreciate the invitation, and I'm honored to be back with you today. The Light Language Conference was such a profound experience. I've done a summit before with Vox Angeles Deus, and that was a profound experience. And I didn't anticipate this one being so amplifying, so powerful, so much more affecting for me, having already been in this space for a while. But it was after day one, after the first night, I was really sort of blown away. And going into day two, well, it started off extremely powerful, and that carried itself so much so that I didn't even know if I would even be able to present, because by that time I felt like I needed 10 naps to recuperate in order to prepare to present. But it was a great experience, and yeah, I've been able to connect with many people since that time. Many people have reached out that felt a resonance with us in that space, and so it's just been nice to have expanded our reach a bit in that way via that platform. So, yeah. So today, as far as sharing goes, we're just gonna go with the flow and share and share really what comes to the fore. And I'll tell you, since the conference, I've just been in a state of integration and integrating to the point where I'm getting more focused in on my truth. Focused in on my truth, right? Because this whole process is a process of shedding layers of self, or the illusions of self, those things that you've kind of bought into over time, and shedding those. And the Light Language Conference was a great catalyst for me in that space. One that, again, that I said I didn't necessarily anticipate, but this has been the product of it. So what I found is that in the last couple of weeks, I am much more open and much more seated within myself. That's a great word. Much more seated now within myself, much more present. And the message that I keep getting from the greater me to this personality perspective is that we are here. We're here fully. There's no disconnect in between, where before it was almost as if we were stabilizing. It's those moments where you feel like you need to connect. You're reaching out to something, or you need to get in a space wherein connection happens. That's no longer the case. The connection is established. There is no disconnect between me and me, like the greater me. So that's the thing that's been a tremendous shift. And in that space, am I acclimating to being I've been in connection with all of it all along, but now that's so much more amplified. It's so much more amplified. So I'm receiving on all channels, but it's so much more amplified. The receipt is so much more amplified. The energy is so much more refined and so much more powerful. And so I'm finding that now as I'm working with people, they are so much more affected when that energy comes through and we're having these having our sessions and things like that. I had a lady the other night, we did a session and she said, that was intense as hell. Like it was fantastic, but that was intense. She said, I've never experienced anything like that. Like I felt everything and it felt like there was a presence, like we did it over Zoom. And she said, I felt like there was a presence here with me the entire time. She said, there's something that happens with the sound of your voice. There's something that comes through. There's something extra that comes through with your voice. And it's like an overlay over me. This was how she described it. There was an overlay that just surrounded her with this warmth and this love. And she said, rational mind would say I should be afraid or there should be because this is so foreign, but it was so comforting and so warming and so comforting that she just felt comfortable in this space. And so she just opened up and she spent a lot of time talking after that because she was really trying to wrap her mind around what happened in that space. So this is what I'm finding. I'm in a much more I guess I'm getting more and stepping more and more into the essence of what it is to walk as an embodied divine being, right? Like I'm settling more into that space. And so one of the messages that I've gotten most recently is that that's where we're all headed. And so there are those of us who are blazing the trail into the realization of infinite possibility. And so we the forerunners. We're on the forefront. So while everybody is wrapped up in the chaos and witnessing the chaos and lending their energy toward the chaos, whether you're for or against, any specific thing, you're still lending your energy to that, which amplifies that, the reflection of that. There are others of us who observe it, but aren't caught up in it, who are holding space and moving us collectively toward the light. And that's the space that I sit in. There are a few of us who sit within that space where we are on the lead and the edge, and all I can see is sunshine and rainbows. I know what's going on over here, but I can see what's coming, and it's pretty fantastic. It is really exciting. I shared a post yesterday, to be exact, that I haven't been sleeping because there's so much excitement building because I know what's on the horizon. I woke up and I had this song playing on repeat in my head, and the song was by Luther Vandross, a really old song. It's called Brand New Day. Brand New Day. And it's Can You Feel It? It's a brand new day. Like all these things that we're preparing to walk into, it's a brand new day. There are those of us who can see it, feel it, who just know it because we know that we know that we know, right? Yeah, the chaos is there, and we have compassion for everybody who's playing in that space. But there are others of us who are holding light because we know what we're collectively moving toward. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I am in a nutshell as far as today. And so on the horizon, there are many things coming on the horizon. Like there are so many things in the works. Like that's a whole other level of excitement, right? Because there's so many things building, and there are so many things that have not yet become manifest in the physical that are on the horizon as far as what do I want to say, offerings that are coming down the pike. And so as far as those offerings that have become manifest, we have the upcoming Dragon Thunder Conference. That's myself, and that's a group of beautiful souls. The Dragon Thunder Conference is to share information related to working with the energy of the dragons. And I'm going to approach that topic when I do my presentation. I'm going to approach it in a different a little bit of a different way, not necessarily so focused on the entity or what we perceive as the dragon, right? But the embodiment of what the essence of that energy is, what that means, the ascended being, the melding of the human and the divine, right? From that perspective, that's the approach that I'm going to take. So if you're looking for what I'm doing, I try to share that on my Linktree. So that's Linktree/Andena Melchizedek. If you're looking for things that are coming immediately down the pike, but there are tons of things coming, and so I'm always sharing on my YouTube channel, always sharing new transmission and things. And speaking of new transmissions, like since the Light Language Conference, one other thing that I've gotten pulled into, I am a total nerd when it comes to research and ancient civilizations and things like that. I'm always doing research because I won't even call it research. I'm always just exploring perspectives, right? I'm always exploring perspectives, and the reason that I do that is not because I'm looking for information, not that I'm looking to know, because there's an aspect of me that already knows. But in reading and exploring perspectives, I allow myself to question. It provokes questions about myself from a different perspective. So I'm getting many angles of me by reading the perspectives of other people and research that they produce. And so I'm always in that space. And I'm very much into physics and all of these different things. So I had a physicist reach out after the conference, and it was kind of interesting because I was a bit leery because you get in science and wanted to use light language, and how is that going to work? How is that going to be used? Those are the questions that kind of come to the fore. But what I found, my guidance was like, no, reach out to him today. I've heard him speak many times before, but after the conference, it was like, now is the time. And so I did contact him, and we had a nice conversation. And what I discovered is that he is doing research to quantify for the logical mind how things become manifest. So what lies before manifestation? Is that akin to light language? Is there some correlation? Is there some relationship between what we perceive as, what we now understand as light language versus something else, right? What the physics community, what the scientific community has already discovered. And it was interesting because I've only resonated really with one person of science, and that's Nassim Harriman, and his work, and how his perception is that the all is connected via black holes, and these black holes are fractalized down, and that's how things move from one state into the next state. That's how everything is connected as a unified field of consciousness, right? The physicist that I'm talking about is Doug Maskey, or Quantum Doug, and his work, his research, his focus lies before things step into manifestation. So the smallest bit of manifestation, he's quantified down to what he calls the bit, actually. And so he's trying to bring that forward for the scientific community, so there can be some bridge between the intuitive side of us collectively and the logical side of us. It's a nice bridge within that space. But what happened as a result of the conversations with him is that it caused me to focus up in a different way. It caused me to focus in and name a thing that I've already been in communication with, but in naming it and bringing my attention to it in a different way, well, it's opened me up in a profound it's opened me up in a really profound way. It's caused me to be much more focused, and it's really kind of level set what it is I do as far as communing with the field and how things become manifest, how we are, through the ability to channel this, what we call the language of light, how we are speaking creation into being, right? and I have a visual, now have a visual to accompany that process, how things spool up, how intention works with the unseen realms, how intention works with the ether to cause it to move. And that movement begins to spiral and coalesce, and these things join together and form thoughts. And these thoughts combined, and as we summon those things, they burst through a quote unquote portal into the light, which eventually becomes manifest form, right? It's interesting how all of that works, but I would say the lesson for me is not discounting anything, because all of it serves as avenues or keys to bring you into greater awareness of self. And that's what this has done for me. So, yeah. Questions?
So I was wondering about his research and how that works. Recently, I was given a reference to life language, not light language, but my collective recently said life language, and I'm like, did I hear it right?
Yeah.
Life language. And so I've just been kind of sitting with that, and it is an expansion. That's what's happened for me since, sort of before the Light Language Conference, because, in the way that we work, right? I mean, it's not linear. And
No.
so the changes for us didn't occur because of the Light Language Conference, or even after, or during, or even after the Light Language Conference, right?
Yeah.
The changes for us started coming in before the Light Language Conference to prepare us for that. And so you and I and many others have started on that trajectory even before the conference actually started. But I too, I've been getting lots of new awarenesses, new information, clarification, right? For me, it's been clarification about why I do the things that I do, because my base is trust. And I never asked questions before I started writing books, right? I never asked questions about why this is this way and why this is that way, and why do I do this and why do I think that. I never asked those questions. Why does this happen? I never asked those questions. It was just like, okay, this is what's happening. Yeah. And we're going to go with that. We're going to ride that wave until it shifts and changes. But because I started writing books, I had to start asking for clarification and definitions and protocols. And this is how you're doing what you're doing, naturally. But this is how it looks to other people. And so the Light Language Conference, just committing to the conference, I'm going to say it that way, committing to do that conference put me on warp speed as far as getting clarification, getting answers, getting awarenesses, as to why I do things. And so I can relate to what you're talking to. And I can imagine that, not everyone, but those that were in alignment are going through the same process, going, what the hell is going on here? Why am I on warp speed? Why can't I sleep? Why can't I take it offline and let my body? But your body does rest while you're lying there. So it's not like you're doing any damage to your body by laying awake. But it is an interesting process. And
it is.
I was looking on, I was looking for it while you were talking, and then you mentioned it, the Dragon Conference.
Oh, yeah.
I was going, now, what was that conference that I saw that she was doing? But so but you're doing more than, I saw more than just the Dragon Conference. What else do you have going as far as offerings of service? What else do you
So
have?
I would say my services are unique to the person who asks. So I put something out there that's really general, but I don't confine myself to that particular box. I say that I am that I am. And everyone who reaches out to me is different. The interaction is different. The needs are different. And so the way I'm queued up is just I surrender to the moment. I'm not trying to fit anyone into a cookie cutter style of service. I just show up and we do whatever you need in a particular moment. So it's kind of like if you were in a tribal scene and you showed up at the shaman's hut. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. Can you fix it? That's kind of the way that I operate. We bring in your team and we all collaborate, and I am just the instrument through which that service comes. And so that's kind of how that works for me. But I want to go back to what you said about the life language, because this is how Doug and I kind of connected, is because I draw these symbols, what has become over time called songs, right? And these things are very much 2D representations of consciousness. And so when I engage with them, they become part of my feel. Like I can literally feel that essence of that thing bubble up like in a sphere off the page, and it becomes part of my field, and it's like almost like an energetic map. A lot of them are energetic maps, and then some of them are just intended to become part of me, but they are very much living, very much alive in that sense. And so life language is definitely a name that fits. But here's what happened when Doug reached out. He reached out because I explained it in that way, that he thought there was a consciousness that existed before form. And so that's kind of what drew him. But in focusing up, they what was shared with me is that the human mind doesn't have the capacity to wrap itself around what this really is. And so all of these things are given as representations. And so they gave me the name not of a language, but of a syntax. They called it a syntax. They called it the quantum awoma syntax. Awoma being that which is of the mother, that which is, and woe of, like woe man, of man, or whatever you want to call it, of manifestation. Awo ma being the great mother of all, the great womb of all that is. So this is a syntax that represents that which is of the mother, and it's very much living, very much alive. And so I just think that speaks to that, because it's not like some people have the concept that this language is a language that can be interpreted, and that's not what this is. This isn't a systemic a systemic form of communication, right? Where there's a one-to-one meaning of things, one-to-one meaning of terms. This is a syntax that communicates the isness of being, consciousness of being, light as information. So it's bringing to you that which you need within the moment. So yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah,
speak to
the
that
universe
life.
doesn't speak English. I'm so
Right.
sorry to burst that bubble for people. But the universe doesn't speak English.
Right. Yeah. And there are times when you wish it did, because it would be much more clear to your human logical mind, but it doesn't. It does not work that way. So
Yeah.
yeah. Nice.
I recently learned about glyphs, and
Mm.
my human mind went, the heck is a glyph, you know?
Mm.
And then it went, oh, hieroglyph,
Yeah.
petroglyph, you know,
Yes.
codes embedded in images,
Mm-hmm.
glyphs. And so it was like A plus B plus C, or 1 plus 6 plus 9 equals, you know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, we have, humans have to name things in
Mm.
order for us to understand it. We have to break it down, and you know, the scientist and all of us, I guess, just have to break it down to try to understand it. And it's a human movement, and we are not just human. And
Right.
so sometimes we have to get past that, in
Right.
order to understand stuff. And even just recently, they talked to me about changing my language, the language that I use.
Mm-hmm.
Like, under the word understand, we've adopted to express our awareness of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've named it understand, but when you look at understand, right,
Yes.
there's the
Mm-hmm.
movement of understand. And so one of my beloved brothers, I call him my bro other,
Mm-hmm.
and his name is Lawrence Jordan, and he does amazing work. But he was talking to me one day, and he said, "Sister, you have to understand." And I went, "You have to what? What?" I like that word, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so he explained it to me to understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not understand. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that is brilliant,
Mm-hmm.
leave it to him to become aware of something that amazing. But so recently in my conversations, um, they mentioned to me the Gnostics, Gnostics, and I'm probably not even pronouncing it right, but the Gnostics. And my my brain went, not going there,
Mm-hmm.
not going there, because my brain went instantly to the religious dogma, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I just go the opposite direction from any religious dogma. And so when they said Gnostic, I went, I'm not even listening to that. Okay, just
Yeah.
turn it off, flip it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started talking to me about what the description of it is. And the
Yes.
description is the inner knowing,
Knowing.
the
Yes.
knowing without distortion, the knowing
Yes.
without prior programming. And I
Yes.
went, oh, okay,
Right.
okay. Now I can get on board with that word, right?
Right.
And so they've been talking to me about changing my language and
Yeah.
changing the way that I phrase things, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
instead of saying understanding, the Gnostic of it, the Gnostic
Yes.
of it.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of expansion. I mean, I haven't gotten to talk with everybody yet from the
Mm.
conference, but there's the general consensus is that there has been a lot of shifts and openings and
Mm.
awarenesses for people not only that attended but those of us that presented, because you and I touched on that before the conference. When I interviewed you before the conference, our thought was this is going to be massive for us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we are also going to be receiving. Even if
Right.
we're not online when the other ones are speaking, we've made that we've made that cohesion
Mm-hmm.
between the 17 of us. It
Yeah.
ended up being 17, not 18, but there was and she's probably still in there, right? But there was
Mm-hmm.
a cohesion, there was an agreement that occurred between those of us who agreed to present and bring information. And so even if we didn't listen to each other's presentations, we were receiving that information, right? And
Yeah.
so it has been very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You
I wanted to touch base, with all of you and see what's new, what's going on, how have you expanded,
oh yeah.
with
Absolutely.
without giving it credit to the conference. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
The
Mm-hmm.
conference was important, but the conference was only the impetus, really,
Mm-hmm.
the placeholder for all of us to begin to connect in and align with each other and plug each other in is the
Mm-hmm.
words that they're using. We plugged each other in, in a
Yeah.
greater capacity because we were already plugged in. But is there anything that your council wants to share with us?
Um, so I'm going to share this and then we'll get there. But I want to speak to you what you said about the language
Mhm.
and being aware, because that's one thing that we mm, don't never necessarily think about in commonplace. The language that we use, the verbiage that we use, and how dense and downstepped it is from higher frequency languages. And this is how I got to that awareness. I was guided I'm always guided to the next resource, the next book, whatever it is that's going to open me up to whatever it is I'm seeking to walk into next. But the thing that they walked me into was the Hebrew language. The Hebrew language. And it's like, you have to learn Hebrew. I'm like, why the heck do I need to learn Hebrew? I'm not about to, be speaking Hebrew or any of that stuff. No, you need to learn Hebrew. And I had a friend who speaks Hebrew, and she agreed to teach me, right? And
Wow.
we start studying the symbols. And look, like, I haven't even gotten to words, like whole words, or being able to speak it a sentence or a phrase, because it's not about that, or it wasn't about that for myself. In studying the symbols, because the Hebrew language is considered, the symbols are considered fire letters, meaning they hold a frequency. And so
Right.
as I'm studying, just looking, just focusing on or meditating on the symbols themselves, there's an activation that occurs. It's very much akin to a light language activation, right? Now, speaking the sounds that accompany the symbols, that's another layer of activation. So what's happening is this higher frequency language is expanding my conscious mind, opening up my conscious mind. So it's been a way of opening opening the conscious mind. But this is where you have to get. It's a point of getting to the space where you are intentional about your expansion, right? Because the downstepped English language keeps you in the pattern of operating, right? It keeps you in the loop and pattern, the lower densified loop and pattern. But you have to somehow break that. And for me, studying the Hebrew language or other fire letters, which are Sanskrit, Chinese, and the Egyptian hieroglyphics, right? Studying those type of things, more pictographic type languages. It's not even about the language. I'm gonna say it's more about the sound and focusing on the visual aspect of the symbols that kind of brings you up to a different space,
Right.
consciously, for your conscious mind, opening up doors that you wouldn't necessarily have the ability to access, because those syllables, that phrasing is not necessarily ingrained or included in the English dialect. So you don't get a chance to bring those frequencies to play for you. So the more you play within those frequencies, the more you open yourself up in different ways. So language is extremely important, from that respect. Yeah. But as far as yeah, as far as a message or something, we can do a quick transmission if we have a few minutes. And so,
We have all the moments that we need.
okay. So I'm going to invite you to just settle in your heart space. I'm going to change my mic, and um, and
Yeah,
then we'll.
because you speak so soft
Yeah.
that it's I'm like, what did she just say? And I have my sound all the way up, okay, because
Okay. Okay.
I didn't want to miss a thing. But yeah,
Gotcha. All right. So I'm gonna be loud because my voice goes into that change, that
yeah.
difference. So yeah. So take a breath, settle in your heart space, and just relax. There's nothing for you to do other than just relax. So relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, everywhere you hold tension. Relax your abdomen, your hands. Yaro emesu ain resotakam arukain aruam. Sar itu kama ua ain yam risiando da me asonda da me kai ar iska da me ori ain red risiando da me to kama u ain siam rit rit an rut am aran irut ain am Forasian urang herin arang ranshan uram arin arang umerin am arin aram ashan uram arin aram umeran an arin aram ashan urin aran aram Amaran kara oruam aran uarin am meran uruan de am hirin da am an de am hasan daran darin da am hasan arin da am Umaran ara oruam asarain ran ram si rusia kweatuam meros dragan warmiato kaisa dramat u ai ar in ori in arbi an arut isyang remiat utin an erotan merot ukam in an aran o am Meran o uruam de am en aruam arin aram andirukai de aruam niesan de am aran uam dirukayan de oruam irakuan de in duam Meran o uruariam eran o uruan de am Nia si uterkai merkai suterbati kam Verian dukan de ai am Meru am de ariam Aran e arioriam Furukayan de am Hirin eran rian deam murukayan de oruam sindurugam de am an irotean sian urits de am mir itun rian san uruk de am san ieswarand mir itun de kai som irratuan dermeatukan irukam Ferukayan orum de am an irutam ream buruken arian de am aran de am somberin oruan de am hirin du am de am sam uteke mana ai yum aritame tu kam sendu kai resiandur kamerut sindre ke to arba aran de ai rand me ite kebete ke sutre kemet kai uteke bete se tu kemet kapato kama wa bes kian tu kebete kapato tu kam mies gio tu kebete kapato kapa umishite te kebete kapato ekishikato arketo shonde ma ai En ik heb het maar ik is het ook maar met zo kotek met is het er maar toch maar niet het er kan maar am er is het maar kan maar het is het kan maar am ada ko ada ko so trek maar kan in kan ook maar so trek maar para que so te que para que se para que so trek maar kan maar da que para ko so trek maar kan tu ka da kam arande am an aran uram aram aran rasukam yam urukearioriam hasaruam riam Soruaina, Merusuan, Arin Rision Remiand Aranduai. His Yandukam, Verias Dramati Asiand, Ariasukam Rean, Verian, Verian.
So, I just wanted to give you some feedback if you're open to it. But first, thank you so much for that
Yes.
transmission. You talked about the fire letters. So some time ago, in the last year, maybe, in one of the light language galleries that I do, their group transmissions. And sometimes I get messages for people during those transmissions. And one of the messages for one of the ladies was that she mentioned to me seeing codes, and she didn't know what they were. So during the transmission, the being shared with me that she was seeing fire letters. I have no idea I had no idea at the time what that meant, right? I just am the messenger. And so I said, they said that you're seeing the fire letters. And she said, what is that? And I said, I don't know. Do your research. Right. I'm just passing the message. And so since then, I realized that I have seen those over time, right? And I just didn't give them a lot of importance, but I've seen them over time. So I'm saying that because you mentioned it, but I wanted to give you a bit of feedback because at this particular transmission, I don't know that I saw it in the other transmissions. But for some reason in this transmission, I could see those letters going out from you, out and up. And I don't really see, I perceive, but I could perceive these symbols. They say letters, but they were symbols, and they were moving from you out into the universe, right? Out and up. And they were fire codes. They were yellows and reds and oranges. But it was just like an unfolding almost, right?
That's so beautiful. That is beautiful.
Yeah. So that, like I said, you probably have been doing that forever, but maybe now it's my awareness. I'm able to perceive that now. I don't know, but I just wanted to share that I received that while you were doing it. And also that I took a minute to Google it because I said, what the hell is that? So they were talking to me about, did you mention syntax at one point? Okay. So when you were doing this, they said that there was a particular portion of your transmission when you were singing, when it sounded like singing, right? Where they told me it was a recalibration. It was the rhythm of it was a recalibration, right? And I went, okay. And then they expanded that to say a syntax of recalibration. But when I Googled syntax, it was like forming sentences and words. And I went, no, that's not that can't possibly be what that meant. So how does that make sense to you, a syntax of recalibration?
Oh, like a base representation. So the symbols and the syntax in the form that we use it's just a representative of what that actually is, because we don't even have a word to encompass what that is, right? This is just a representative of the only way that we can communicate it. It's not a language, it's not sentences, it's not the thing, it's just the base the base level representation for what is coming forth for you, right, in that particular moment. What you spoke about as the streams coming from me, is a visual that they've given me before of
Okay.
what I how I exist in the physical. So I am a seraph. Those are the highest light, embodied, fully embodied seraph here in
Right.
form. And when they've explained that, when that has been explained to me or given to me in picture form, I've seen those symbols extending from the source down, and as they entered, excuse me, the portal, which is my birth into form, some of those were held back because of the family that I was born into, the avenue that I was born into. The work that I've done over the years in reconnecting with the me that is me has brought all of those into form with me now. So now I exist in a space where I am radiating that as who as my existence within this physical plane. So as I walk about, am I radiating these symbols out? And it looks, the visual that it gave me was that it looks like a wheel extending from my heart, like going out in all directions, like a sun radiating out these symbols. And so your description of that is very much in line with the visual of myself that I saw. So that's
Yeah,
fascinating.
radiating is a better word.
Yeah,
It was, I could only say streaming, but yeah,
yeah,
they were radiating out. Yeah, exactly.
nice, beautiful, beautiful. Wow.
I love this expansion. It does. It seems like we are on hyper expansion mode, and like you said, it's I've personally been on this now for a few years, but it's just like speeding up now. It's
Mm,
yeah, it's more apparent to me. Maybe I just wasn't aware of it before, but now it's so apparent that we are just on hyper speed.
mm-hmm.
It's like we got to get there. You got to get there. The movie's gonna start. You got to get there. You got to get in the seat. You got to get your popcorn and your chocolate and your drink because the
Well,
movie's
yeah.
starting.
The frequencies are speeding up, right? And I think that's just our interpretation of how it feels time wise, but
Yeah,
really just the frequencies are speeding up, and that which doesn't align with that elevated frequency, we see it as chaos and all the quote unquote bad things and negative things that are happening. But
yeah,
it's all one and the same. I mean, it's all happening together. It's all one thing, right?
yeah,
Happening at the same time. So, yeah.
yeah. They're really. I mean, there is bad. There is bad when you're on the receiving end of it and you perceive it as being
Right.
traumatic and bad, but it's all personal, right? So,
Mm.
um, but in order for things to change, some things have to die.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the circle of life, as they would say, right? So in order to create life, things have to create beginnings, things have to end. I mean, that's just what is that? What is the snake?
Ouroboros.
Yeah, the
Ouroboros. Yeah.
Ouroboros. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a beginning and an end, uh, although it's continuous, but still, and so it's the way, it's how we've always existed. That's how we
Right.
expand. Yeah.
Right. That's
Cells
it's
die so that cells can be reborn, right?
right. Yeah. And we can get tripped up by the perspective of life and death, but really it's the incessant inhale and exhale of the all. You have to have an
Right.
in breath and an out breath. That's the
Yeah.
flow of creation. Like creation
Yeah.
is always pulsing in that way. The divine inhale and exhale of the cosmic breath. That's the way
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
a good way to say it. Receive, release, because
Yes.
you breathe in, you receive, you breathe out, you release. And so when you breathe out, you're releasing, you're dying, right? I mean,
Right.
you're releasing those dead cells or whatever. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's not even exhaling death or something like that. I would say I would put it like this. It's exhaling. It's all information, right? and you're exhaling experience. You're
Yeah.
exhaling lived experience, and so that experience feeds the all. It becomes part of the fabric of the all, and then we can have new experiences with that expertise that already exists within the field. And so you're having new experiences from an elevated perspective. That's the cycle of evolution. Evolution is happening whether we choose to surrender to it or not, or go kicking and screaming. But I mean, it's all experiences are based on our experience in the now is based on the expertise that's already been lived and given out into the field. And so we're just recycling that and having more and more elevated experiences as we go. That's why life isn't necessarily a circle, life is a spiral, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to leave it there. Leave it there for the flat earth theorist.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't get on board with that because everything I know is in a circle. But yeah.
All perspectives, right?
All perspectives are
Everybody is
important.
seeing from their perspective, right?
All
Yeah.
perspectives are important. Yeah. I just can't see things in a line. I just can't. But
Yeah.
which is probably why I talk in circles all the time, right? I can't talk in a line. I have to talk in circles. It's my programming.
It's all good though. It's all good. Yeah.
Do you have any last things that you want to share? Any last
Um,
nuggets that you want to share
um,
with us?
I would say follow me on YouTube if you can, because I'm sharing new and different transmissions. Like even the way I deliver transmissions, all of it is evolving now, and it's much more focused and again much more intentional in the way that it's being created, in the way that it has the potential to affect change as you allow yourself to surrender to it. In that vein, I would say surrender to the fullness of being you. I am a poster child for embracing and having the courage to be you, to exist as you, because that's where the magic is. We think we're here to do it a certain way, to learn these methodologies, which is somebody else's methodology, somebody else's way, right? I think we're supposed to adopt those and do it in alignment with that. But really, we're here to see all that stuff as possibility. What lies in potential? What can be accomplished, right? And then take that as fuel to see what we might be able to do from our own perspective, to see how we might be able to create, what we might be able to create, and lend all of us to the fullness of the realization of that particular thing. Because your magic, your ability to be affecting, to be all that you came into this physical plane to be, is totally wrapped in that. Your ability to walk in the fullness of you. Nobody can do what you do in the way that you do it. You are here for that purpose, to be fully you, to be fully you. So have the courage to discover what that is and be intentional in that space. It's not going to happen by happenstance. I would say it this way: happenstance will only get you so far. Like living life will, like it will, like literally, it only gets you so far. But there comes a point where you have to make a conscious decision that I am going to open myself up. I am going to because I realize the potential is infinite. The field is infinite potential, and I'm only capped out here. How can I go beyond here? And so you begin to ask the questions, you begin to open up, you begin to utilize different methodologies. So whether that's a 40 hertz lamp, like listening to gamma frequencies, meditating to gamma frequencies, doing whatever needs to be done, to engaging with the fire letters, right? meditating on those sounds or those tones of the fire letters, practicing Sanskrit. The fire letters are the ones that I've identified are the Sanskrit, Hebrew, Chinese, and Egyptian hieroglyphics, right? Studying those, sounding those, not necessarily learning the language, but learning the tones, the syllables that go along with those symbols while you meditate on those symbols. All of these things are just different practices that can open you up consciously as you surrender to them. So yeah, go with the flow, but also be intentional about surrendering to the fullness of you, being intentional about opening you up, and then having the courage to be different from the crowd, because it's a lot of lonely times when you are when you are existing as you, when you are walking your path. But you have to know that you aren't walking alone. You might not have the physical people present, but I have a team, a gang of folks behind me, a gang of presences that are assuring me up as I surrender into that space. And so I am very much guided, never alone, and just having the courage to exist within that state. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is important. It
Yes.
is important. Well, thank you so much
You are very,
for
very
taking the
welcome.
time to come back and play with me and
Oh, absolutely.
experience and share.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime. Anytime. Anytime.
So as usually, I'm going to send you the recording so you can use it anywhere that you want to use it,
Okay.
and I'll post it on our YouTube and also Facebook. So,
Oh, sounds good.
all right. Thank you so much. Have a
All right.
great
You're so
rest of the
welcome.
day.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.